Good afternoon. Welcome to my Vlogmas. I meant to record yesterday, but it got to be about this time and it was like so dark. Oregon rain, it's a thing. So I thought I would kind of do two little segments in one today. So first I want to talk about my Christmas Eve and Christmas Day cast on plans and Christmas week blanket start plan. And then I want to talk more about my blue Quakers that kind of go with my start plans. So let's do the yarn first. So I'm going to be doing the Little Bobbins Knits Christmas Eve cast on, and I've chosen this yarn. I feel like this is a nice, bright, happy color. Got some neons. This will take me into January. I feel like I've got lots of neon yarn I want to knit in January. And this is Legacy Fiber Artz, Gonzo Dickens, and Cozy Toes, which is a merino cashmere nylon. And I recently picked this up. This was an impulse buy. Anyway, so this will be my Christmas Eve cast on, and I will use my Knit Pro Zings, which I just freed up today. When I do my update on all my Advent socks, I'll have to show you how those came out. I want to work a little bit more on them before I show them, so I will show some of that progress maybe tomorrow or the next day. I've got my friend grabbing all my bags here. So the next project I want to do is I want to do a hand spun blanket, and I want to do the 6-day blanket. I doubt I will be able to finish it in 6 days. That sounds like a fun goal. But I feel like this is a great way to use different amounts of hand spun where some of the skeins that have longer stretches of color will look good towards the outside. So my theme for this color theme wise is going to be pink, gold, brown, and I'm going to start with this is one of my favorite ones for this particular blanket. So this will go more towards the center. And then I just pulled went through my stash and just pulled a ton of hand spun that kind of met the requirements of what I'm looking for. And so my plan is the colors that I like the most, I will use first because I have no idea how many skeins this blanket is going to use up. And so if there's ones like for instance, these ones, I'm not sure if I'm going to use, but I just pulled just in case I need the yarn. And then I have some neutrals, just some different grays. I think this was a gray Advent spin, different sample breeds. But this is just deep stash, stuff that I spun a long time ago, and all kind of goes with the color palette. I am going to be pulling this one out because I started this granny square, I think last year, but I'm going to pull this out and restart it for this particular project. I'll probably start with the same spot and then move to this one and then just kind of go from there. The rest of that skein looks like this, so it'll kind of move into the gold and the orange. And then more towards the outside, I'll do the gold, maybe even the border, because I feel like this is going to be, there's a lot more yardage of this than there is of any of the other colors. But because as each of the rows get longer, my amount of the yarn that, how the striping will work optically, this will be good towards the outside. And so that's my plan. I'm going to start that. I haven't done a crochet blanket in a while, and it sounds like a lot of fun. And I was looking through my stash, and I have enough to do probably a few hand spun blankets at this point. So I thought this pink one was a good way to go. And then I have enough to do a jewel tone one, but I need to look at some of my spinning stash and see if I want to spin some more for it first. And then I want to do a self striping type ones with different patterns. But anyway, all the project plans for next year. And then I have a cross stitch start I want to do. So I want to start Summer Quaker by Lila Studio. I feel like I like beachy themed things in January, and so I feel like this is a perfect start for around the new year. I don't know if I'll do it Christmas Day or if I'll wait till to New Year's. Just kind of loose plans for the week. Checking got one of my project bags. Anyway, and so this is going to go with my family heritage wall. So I'm totally stealing Lori Holt's idea and doing a wall based on that. I'm going to be doing blue samplers. I have 3 to show you here in a minute. And even though this is not a solid blue one, I feel like it kind of goes with my theme. And I think it's my heritage wall, but I feel like it's okay to have different samplers. It'll all go together. And what I'm doing is for some of my more immediate ancestors and family members, they're kind of getting one name per sampler. And then since this is going to be for some of my great grandparents, yeah, I figure this is a good one to do. And it kind of reminds me of Bermuda. So it'll be my great grandparents who went to Bermuda and lived there. And so I will put both of their names on this one. So it'll be my my grandfather's parents' stapler. So anyway, so I picked this fabric, and I want to, oh, it is 36 count Winter Moon Edinburgh linen that I had dunked in tea a couple years ago. And so I was in my tea dyeing phase, and I don't think I did a very strong tea dye on this one. So I figured this is the perfect opportunity to use this one. You can see my very official, I marked it with a T or T when I dyed it, so I would know that it wouldn't be like the same. I think I got this in one of my advent calendars from a couple years ago. It was in a cross stitch one, and it came with this. And then I'm in the middle of working on my floss organization. I was working on that upstairs, and he was done with it, so I stopped. So I thought I'd show a little bit about how I do that. I thought that might be interesting. So I have like DIY floss drops. The pen I was using was actually kind of bleeding onto the paper a little bit, so don't recommend a gel pen for this. But I make all of my own floss drops and just put them on a little ring. I will link the supplies in the description. But basically, so I used Priscilla and Chelsea's method that I saw on a video ages ago for how to actually take the DMC floss and sort it on there. So quickly demonstrate. Basically, just take one end and then you just pull all the way to the other end. And then I'm sure lots of people know how to do this already, but just in case someone's new and this is new information. And then you just go all the way back to the other end. I will say when I was doing this, I feel like DMC has changed a little bit. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I feel like it didn't used to tangle this much in the past, and it feels a little thinner. I don't know, maybe it's been a while, but it's still pretty, but I didn't notice that. And then I just keep going, meeting up the ends and going to the next end and folding it, and then folding it. And then because I like to take my DMC and double it, this is the length I will go with. So I know it's probably 18 inches, and I will snip the end that has the start cut end, so not the loopy end. And I will just snip here. Grab my supply bag. I've got my scissors for this. And I will just snip those ends. I like to use really sharp scissors for this. I think these scissors came in, I don't know, one of the Fat Quarter Shop bags, probably one of the quilting bags. So these are the scissors that I use for cutting, and honestly any scissors would work, but I try to just keep these in the bag. They're a good pair, and they're not really long enough to do like fabric cutting, and I feel like they're a little too hefty to just put in my cross stitch bag, so they're perfect for this. So anyway, so once I have this little loop, then I will just find my floss drop that goes with that particular tag, and I will fold it over and put it on there. So that's how that works. So I still have all of these to go. Let's put this here. So I still have all of these to do. And then this particular floss drop system that I use is how I have all of my DMC organized, which I'll do a separate video on at some point. But I just keep all of my supplies in my bag here so that anytime I need to kit up a project, I can grab this bag. This was one of the Stitch Quarterly bags from Fat Quarter Shop. So it's a nice canvas bag. And in here I have a whole bag of just these pre-cut papers. I think I did 1.5 inches by 2. And they look like this. And there's just little cardstocks. And I used to get these at Joann's, but I know Amazon sells them. And these are just these, I think they're for scrapbooking. And this is, I think, the 12 by 12. And it comes with 36 papers. And there's just so many. I mean, like literally, this is probably enough to have like a lifetime supply of floss drops, but you could always buy smaller sets and have more, or however you want to do it. But it's just a really inexpensive way to make floss drops. And then when I have my little cards, so I take this is a 5/8 inch hole punch, and I just put a hole in the top. I like this better than the 1/4 inch because the little rings fit better through 5/8 inch. And then I have a 1/2 inch little circle punch, and I just kind of try my best to center it and pop. And then basically DIY floss drops. And it works, and that's how I store all of my leftover floss. And then in my bag, I try to keep some different pens and Sharpies and stuff to mark things off. And then that way, anytime I want to kit something, I could just grab this and work on that. So I will keep this handy. Actually, I think I have everything I need. I just need to sort these, which I can work on later. I know. And then I need to try a different hoop, but I've always just used these plastic hoops. I've used them since I started cross stitching seriously as a teenager, and these are just inexpensive hoops off of Amazon. They hold the fabric well. I mean, they come in different colors. I like the bigger one because I like to be able to jump around and stitch a little bit. So anyway, so let me show you 3 of my Quakers that I have finished that I need to frame. So I'm going to learn how to do it myself. I briefly looked at purchasing frames over Black Friday weekend. I took my measurements. I was looking on Hobby Lobby, but with my margins on my fabric, which are not very big, and with some of the measurements for some of the frames, like I just couldn't find what I wanted. And then I looked at a couple of custom frame, and it was just like way too expensive. My dad used to make frames for all of my cross stitches, and so I think I'm going to be picking up the baton and starting to do that myself. Just because it's fun and it's another hobby. Like I love starting hobbies. That's something that could be considered one of my hobbies. And so anyway, so let me show you some of my samplers that I've made. I've tried to put stitch markers over some of the names, but these are like my family heritage ones, and I've not cut these down at all. And these are all. This one is a modern folk embroidery. I should have looked up the names before I started. I thought I was all prepared. Oh, here, it's bunching up a little bit. Let me see if I can fix that. I want to say it's Forget Me Not, but it's a modern folk embroidery sampler. And this is just Zweigart 36 count. I think I have the fabric here. Let me borrow that, buddy. This is flax linen. So good old flax linen. And I used a white for the letters, and then a few of the other letters are a colored blue, but that's what this one looks like. And this one is in DMC 311. So that's just a good blue. I keep an assortment of blues just for when I'm choosing these kind of projects, and that way I can pick a fabric and pick a blue when I feel inspired. The next one I believe is Weinberg Designs. It's a German, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's a German designer, and I think this is their Rose Quaker. And so this one's my most recent Quaker finish. And this one was a lot harder than the modern folk embroidery. I feel like the modern folk embroidery patterns that I've stitched so far are very symmetrical, very easy to, like once you stitch one half of it, it's pretty easy to translate it to the other half. But anyway, this one's pretty. This one's also a Zweigart 36 count. I want to say it's raw, the raw color. And I stitched it with sulky cotton in $11.99. And this was my first time using the sulky cotton, which is interesting because it's a single ply. Let's see, just pull it off the spool. So that was a lot of fun. I felt like that one was a nice, pretty project to work on. And then my last one, let me cover, was a 2020 stitch along from Modern Folk Embroidery. Was I think Family Patchwork or something along those lines for the name of it. Just my stitch marker. My stitch marker, my needle minder. I'm using the wrong terminology here. And so this one, I believe is DMC 3750, but it's the, sorry if the number is wrong, but it's the dark antique blue color. And this was my first time doing a Quaker, so there are some mistakes in here, but honestly, like, no one's going to be looking that closely at my sampler. But this is where I kind of fell in love with Quaker samplers, and so I need to get these framed. I will make some videos when I do it because I think that'll be kind of fun. I haven't decided how I want to do it because there's more than one way to kind of get the edge. I don't know. I could geek out and talk about frames, but I want to build my own frames, and so that will be a nice project. Once the weather's nicer and I can maybe do some filming outside instead of in my garage for that. But that is those are my plans for the next week, is to start my next family heritage sampler and some socks and a blanket. So anyway, thank you so much for watching.